Officer Michael Torres had everything going for him at 24. Fresh out of the police academy with top marks, engaged to his high school sweetheart, and just hired by the Phoenix Police Department. He was living proof that hard work and determination could lift you out of the barrio and into a better life. But sometimes the past has a way of reaching out and dragging you back down, no matter how far you think you've climbed. Have you ever felt like your whole life was building towards something great, only to watch it all crumble in a single moment? That's exactly what happened to Michael on a humid Tuesday evening in September, when his past came knocking in the form of men he'd hoped never to see again. Michael's shift had just ended. He was walking to his car in the station parking lot, texting Maria about dinner plans, when he noticed the black SUV idling across the street. His training kicked in immediately. Tinted windows too dark to be legal, engine running, positioned for a quick exit. But before he could react, his phone buzzed with a message that made his blood run cold. "Hello, Miguelito. Long time no see." Only one person had ever called him that. Rico Valdez, his cousin from his mother's side, the one who'd taken a different path when they were teenagers. While Michael chose books and basketball, Rico chose the streets and the easy money that came with moving product for the Sinaloa Cartel. Michael looked up from his phone to find Rico standing beside his patrol car, seemingly materialized from nowhere. He looked older, harder, with new scars across his knuckles and a gold tooth that caught the streetlight when he smiled. "Rico," Michael said carefully, his hand instinctively moving toward his service weapon. "Easy, Primo," Rico said, raising his hands in mock surrender. "I'm not here to cause trouble. Just to talk family business. We're not family anymore. You made sure of that when you chose the cartel over blood." Rico's smile faded. "See, that's where you're wrong, Miguelito. Family is forever, and the family needs your help. Not interested." Michael moved to open his car door, but Rico's hand slammed it shut. "You don't understand. This isn't a request." That's when Michael noticed the red laser dot dancing on his chest. Another on his forehead. Snipers, positioned somewhere in the darkness. His mouth went dry. "Get in the SUV," Rico said, his friendly tone gone. "We're going for a ride." Michael knew he had two choices: refuse and likely die here in the parking lot, or comply and hope to find a way out later. Training told him to never let them take you to a secondary location, but training hadn't accounted for multiple rifles trained on him and his cousin's cold eyes. He got in the SUV. The ride was silent except for narco corridos playing softly on the radio, songs glorifying the very lifestyle Michael had spent his life avoiding. They drove for 40 minutes into the desert, far from streetlights and witnesses. When they finally stopped, Michael found himself at a warehouse that looked abandoned from the outside, but hummed with activity within. Inside, armed men moved with military precision, loading trucks with wrapped packages Michael didn't need to inspect to identify. At the center of it all sat a man Michael recognized from intelligence briefings. Eduardo El Lobo Ramirez, a lieutenant in the Sinaloa Cartel responsible for the Phoenix corridor. "Officer Torres," El Lobo said, his voice cultured, almost pleasant. "Rico speaks highly of you. Top of your class at the academy, clean record, engaged to be married. A real American success story." "What do you want?" Michael asked, trying to keep the fear from his voice. El Lobo gestured to a laptop on the table. On the screen was surveillance footage. Michael's mother leaving her job at the hospital, his younger sister Anna walking to school, Maria browsing wedding dresses at a boutique. "Your family is beautiful," El Lobo observed. "It would be tragic if something happened to them." The threat was clear: delivered with the casual certainty of a man who'd followed through on such promises before. Michael's hands clenched into fists. "If you touch them, we won't have to, will we? Because you're going to help us. Just a few small favors. Nothing that will compromise any ongoing investigations. Just information. Schedules. Maybe look the other way at certain times. In exchange, your family stays safe, and you get compensated. Everyone wins." "I won't be a dirty cop." El Lobo laughed. "Dirty? No, no. Think of yourself as protective. Protecting your family. There's nothing dirty about that." He slid a phone across the table. "This is how we'll communicate. You'll receive instructions. Follow them, and life continues normally. Refuse." He shrugged. "Well, let's not explore that option." The ride back was a blur. They dropped Michael at his car with a final warning from Rico. "Don't even think about going to your supervisors. We have people everywhere. You'd be dead before you finished your report." Michael sat in his car for an hour after they left, hands shaking, mind racing. He thought about his mother, who'd worked 3 jobs to put him through college. His sister just started her freshman year at Arizona State. Maria already picking out flowers for their wedding next spring. That night, he barely slept. Maria asked if something was wrong at work, and he forced a smile, told her it was just a tough case. The lie tasted bitter. The first of many he'd have to tell. The phone they'd given him buzzed at 3 a.m. with the first instruction, "Tomorrow. Route 17 checkpoint. 2 p.m. shift change. Take an extra long lunch." Such a simple request. Just be absent for an hour. Let someone drive through unchecked. It wouldn't hurt anyone directly, but Michael knew it was the first step down a path that led nowhere good. He reported for his shift the next day, the burner phone feeling like a lead weight in his pocket. His partner, Officer Janet Park, noticed his distraction. "You okay, Torres?" "You seem off." "Just tired," he lied. "Wedding planning, you know." She laughed. "Maria's got you running ragged already? Wait until you're actually married." At 1:45 p.m., Michael made an excuse about food poisoning and left his post. He sat in a restaurant bathroom, listening to his radio as a large shipment moved through the checkpoint he should have been manning. No one noticed, no one questioned. It was that easy to betray everything he'd sworn to protect. The pattern continued for weeks. Small requests at first, shift changes, route information, names of informants that somehow never stayed secret long. Each time, Michael told himself it was to protect his family. Each time, the weight of his betrayal grew heavier. His work suffered. He became paranoid, jumpy. Captain Rodriguez called him in for a performance review. "Torres, what's going on? You were one of our most promising rookies. Now you're distracted, making mistakes. Is everything all right at home?" "Yes, sir. Just adjusting to the job, I guess." Rodriguez studied him with the eyes of a cop who'd seen it all. "If something's wrong, if you're in some kind of trouble, you can talk to me. That's what I'm here for." For a moment, Michael almost broke. Almost told him everything. But then he remembered the red laser dots, his mother's face on that laptop screen, and he swallowed the truth. "Everything's fine, Captain. I'll do better." A month into his forced cooperation, the requests escalated. They wanted him to plant evidence on a rival dealer, to delete footage from an evidence room camera, to provide the home address of a witness. That last one broke something in Michael. The witness was a single mother who'd seen a cartel execution. If he gave up her address, she'd be dead within days. Her kids would be orphans. He stared at the request on the burner phone for hours. This wasn't protecting his family anymore. This was becoming the monster he'd joined the force to fight. That night, he made a decision that would either save or damn him. He couldn't go to his local supervisors. The cartel's reach was too deep. But the FBI was a different story. They had witness protection, resources, the ability to fight back. At 2 a.m., Michael drove to a payphone 3 towns over. His hands shook as he dialed the FBI's tip line. "I'm a police officer being blackmailed by the Sinaloa Cartel," he said quickly. "They're threatening my family. I need help. Sir, can you provide your name and badge number?" Michael hesitated. Once he gave that information, there was no going back. But the image of that witness, those kids who'd lose their mother, made the choice for him. Officer Michael Torres, Phoenix PD, badge number 4782. "Stay on the line, Officer Torres. We're routing you to the appropriate department." 20 minutes later, Michael was talking to Special Agent David Chen from the FBI's Organized Crime Division. Chen listened without interrupting as Michael laid out everything: the threats, the tasks he'd completed, the escalating demands. "Officer Torres, first, you did the right thing coming to us. Second, are you in immediate danger? Not if I keep cooperating with them. Good. Can you get to the Phoenix FBI field office tomorrow without raising suspicion?" "I have a day off. I can make it." "Come alone. Park in the public garage across the street and walk over. We'll have agents watching to make sure you're not followed." The next morning, Michael told Maria he was going to look at venues for the wedding. Another lie added to the pile. The FBI field office was a fortress of glass and steel, intimidating even to a cop. Agent Chen met him in a secure room, no windows, white noise generators humming. Chen was younger than Michael expected, maybe 35, with intense eyes that seemed to catalog every detail. With him was Agent Sarah Butler, introduced as a specialist in cartel operations. "Officer Torres, what you're describing is part of a larger pattern we've been tracking," Butler said, sliding a folder across the table. "The Sinaloa Cartel has been systematically compromising law enforcement across Arizona. You're not the first officer they've trapped. But you could be the last," Chen added, "if you're willing to work with us." "What do you mean?" "We want to flip this situation. You keep taking their orders, but you wear a wire. Document everything. Help us build a case that takes down their entire Phoenix operation." Michael's mouth went dry. "They'll kill me. My family." "We can protect them," Butler assured him. "We'll move them to a safe house immediately. As for you, we'll have agents shadowing you 24/7. You won't see them, but they'll be there. And if the cartel figures it out, then we extract you immediately. But Michael, Officer Torres, this is our best shot at saving not just your family, but dozens of others in the same situation." Michael thought about his mother, his sister, Maria. They'd have to give up their lives, go into hiding. But the alternative was worse, continuing to be a puppet for murderers, becoming the corrupt cop he'd always despised. What about the witness, the one whose address they want? "We'll relocate her tonight." Give them a fake address. By the time they realize it's wrong, she'll be long gone. It was a lifeline, a chance at redemption. Michael took it. "Okay, I'll do it." Chen nodded. "We'll start immediately. First, we need to move your family." "No," Michael interrupted. "If they all disappear suddenly, the cartel will know something's up. We need to be smart about this." Butler smiled slightly. "You're thinking like an undercover already. What do you suggest?" "My mom's been talking about visiting family in Chicago. Natural reason for her to leave. Anna has fall break coming up. She could go with her. Maria, that's harder. Leave Maria to us," Chen said. "We'll create a family emergency that requires her to leave town." sick relative. Something believable. The cartel will check. Let them. We're very good at creating convincing backgrounds. They spent the next 4 hours going over procedures, codes, emergency protocols. Michael was fitted with a wire so advanced it was virtually undetectable, woven into the fabric of his undershirt. They gave him a panic button disguised as a key fob. 3 clicks would bring a tactical team within minutes. "Remember," Chen said as they prepared to leave, "you're not alone anymore. We've got your back." Michael wanted to believe him. But as he drove home, the weight of what he'd agreed to settled on his shoulders. He was about to play the most dangerous game imaginable, pretending to be corrupt while actually being a double agent. One mistake, one slip, and everyone he loved would pay the price. That evening, Maria noticed his tension immediately. "Michael, what's wrong? You've been strange for weeks." He pulled her close, memorizing the feeling of her in his arms, the smell of her shampoo, the way she fit perfectly against him. In a few days, she'd be gone, hidden away for her own safety. This might be one of their last normal moments together. "Just work stuff," he said, hating the lie but knowing the truth would put her in even more danger. "You can talk to me about anything, you know that, right?" "I know, and someday I'll tell you everything, but right now, I just need you to trust me." She pulled back, studying his face. "You're scaring me. I'm sorry. I don't mean to. Just, if anything happens, if you suddenly have to leave town or if things get crazy, know that I love you, and I'm doing everything to protect you." "Michael, what?" His burner phone buzzed, new instructions. The witness's address, they wanted it tonight. "I have to make a call," he said, kissing her forehead. "Work." He stepped outside and called the number Chen had given him. "They want the witness location now. We're ready. Give them this address." Chen rattled off a location in Scottsdale. Teams already in position in case they send someone to verify. Michael relayed the false address to his cartel handler, his hand steady despite his racing heart. The wire recorded everything. His handler's voice, the confirmation, the promise of payment for his cooperation. "Good work, Miguelito," the voice said. "Keep this up, and everyone stays happy and healthy." After hanging up, Michael stood in his backyard, looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, a family was being moved to safety because of his call to the FBI. Somewhere else, cartel killers were heading to an empty house. And somewhere in between, Michael stood on a tightrope, balanced between salvation and damnation. The game had begun. The wire felt like fire against Michael's skin, even though Agent Chen assured him it was undetectable. 3 weeks into his role as a double agent, every moment felt like walking through a minefield. His mother and sister were safely in Chicago, believing they were visiting family. Maria had left for Denver to care for a sick aunt, an FBI creation so convincing that even her co-workers sent flowers. Have you ever lived every second expecting it to be your last? That constant state of hyper-awareness where every shadow could hide a killer, every phone call could be your death sentence. That was Michael's existence now, and it was slowly eating him alive. The burner phone buzzed at 4 a.m. Michael was already awake, hadn't really slept in days. The message was brief. Meeting tonight. Warehouse. Come alone. This was different. Usually, they gave him tasks remotely. Face-to-face meetings meant something big was coming. Michael immediately activated his secondary phone, sending a coded text to Chen. Package delivery scheduled for tonight. Within minutes, Chen called back on the secure line. We'll have Overwatch, full tactical team on standby. You remember the panic sequence. 3 clicks on the key fob. If anything feels wrong, you bail. Your life is more important than the case. Michael wanted to believe that was true, but he knew the reality. He was expendable. A necessary sacrifice if it meant taking down the cartel's operation. He'd accepted that the day he made the call to the FBI. That evening, Michael drove to the warehouse, his wire recording everything. The FBI's tracking device was hidden in his boot heel, another in his watch. Chen's team was out there somewhere in the darkness, invisible but present, at least he hoped they were. Inside, the warehouse was busier than before. El Lobo was there, but so were faces Michael recognized from intelligence photos, higher-ups in the cartel hierarchy. Something major was happening. Miguelito, Rico greeted him, but his usual swagger was replaced with tension. Big night tonight. What's going on? Transportation issue. We need a police escort. Michael's blood chilled. What? El Lobo approached, his expensive suit incongruous in the dirty warehouse. We have a special shipment coming through. Very valuable. Very important. We need someone to make sure it reaches its destination safely. I can't escort drug shipments. That's too visible, too risky. Not drugs, El Lobo interrupted. People. The room seemed to tilt. Human trafficking. They wanted him to escort human trafficking. 12 packages, El Lobo continued, using the dehumanizing term with casual cruelty. Young women. Already paid for. Just need safe passage from here to the drop point. Michael's hand instinctively moved toward his panic button but stopped. If he pulled out now, those 12 women would still be trafficked, just without his involvement. But if he stayed, if he played along, the FBI could intercept. "Where's the drop point?" he asked, his voice surprisingly steady. "You don't need to know. You just need to follow the truck, make sure no one stops it. Flash your badge if necessary. Simple, simple. 12 lives hanging in the balance, and this monster called it simple. When? 2 hours. Michael nodded, his mind racing. 2 hours to coordinate with the FBI, to set up a rescue operation without blowing his cover. I need to change into uniform. Can't do this in civilian clothes. El Lobo studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Be back in 90 minutes. Don't be late. Michael left the warehouse, driving normally until he was sure he wasn't being followed, then pulled into a closed gas station and called Chen. Human trafficking, he said, without preamble. 12 women, 2 hours. Jesus Christ. Okay, we're mobilizing. Where's the intercept? I don't know yet. I'm supposed to follow a truck, provide police escort. We'll track you. Multiple units ready to move. Michael, this is it. We can take them down tonight. What about the women? Rescue team is priority 1. We won't move until they're secure. Michael returned to his apartment to get his uniform, his hands shaking as he dressed. The badge felt heavier than usual, weighted with the betrayal of what he was about to do. But those 12 women, they were someone's daughters, sisters, maybe mothers. He couldn't let them disappear into slavery. Back at the warehouse, a refrigerated truck was waiting. Michael's stomach turned, knowing there were people locked inside, terrified, probably struggling to breathe. El Lobo handed him a radio. Stay in contact. Any problems, you handle them. Michael followed the truck onto the highway, updating Chen through subvocalized messages picked up by his wire. Heading south on I-10, white refrigerated truck, license plate. For 40 minutes, nothing happened. Then Michael saw them. 2 FBI vehicles merging onto the highway, maintaining distance but definitely following. His relief was short-lived when his cartel radio crackled to life. We've got tails. 2 SUVs maintaining distance. Michael's heart hammered. If the cartel spotted the FBI, they'd know he was compromised. I'll check it out. he said into the radio, then fell back to investigate the trailing vehicles. He pulled alongside one of the FBI SUVs, making a show of running the plates. The agent inside, someone Michael didn't recognize, played it perfectly, looking nervous, speeding up slightly as if trying to avoid police attention. Michael returned to his position behind the truck. "Just civilians," he reported. "Probably speeding, saw my unit, and got spooked." "Good. Stay alert." They were approaching the city limits when everything went wrong. A second truck appeared, identical to the first, then a third. They were splitting up, and Michael could only follow one. The cartel had anticipated law enforcement intervention and created decoys. 3 trucks splitting at Junction 42, Michael whispered urgently. Chen's voice in his earpiece. "We see them." Teams moving to intercept all 3. But Michael knew they didn't have enough resources to safely take down 3 separate operations. Some of those women were going to slip through. Unless he made a decision that would haunt him forever. Clicking his radio, he spoke to the cartel handler. "Construction ahead on the south route. Avoid Highway 60. It was a lie that would funnel at least one truck into an FBI roadblock. But it also revealed knowledge he shouldn't have, planting a seed of suspicion that would grow into deadly consequences. The truck he was following took the exit toward an industrial area. Michael could see FBI units converging, trying to remain invisible. The warehouse complex ahead was perfect for an ambush. Isolated, limited exits, minimal civilian presence. Then Rico's voice came over the cartel radio. "Something's wrong." "Pull back. Abort." Someone had tipped them off. The truck suddenly accelerated, trying to flee. Michael had seconds to decide, maintain cover or help the FBI. Those 12 women in the back made the choice for him. He hit his sirens and accelerated past the truck, cutting it off and forcing it to stop. The driver jumped out, gun drawn. Michael was faster, his training taking over. 2 shots center mass, the man dropping before he could fire. Chaos erupted. FBI agents swarmed from hidden positions. The warehouse erupted in gunfire as cartel members engaged the federal agents. Michael took cover behind his patrol car, returning fire at figures in the shadows. His radio crackled, Rico's voice cold and knowing. "You fucking rat. You're dead, Miguelito. Your whole family is dead." The threat sent ice through Michael's veins, but he kept fighting. The firefight lasted 7 minutes that felt like hours. When the smoke cleared, 8 cartel members were dead, 3 in custody. And in the back of the truck, 12 terrified women were found alive. Michael stood among the chaos, his cover blown, his life as he knew it over. Agent Chen approached, tactical vest over his suit. "You did good, Torres. Those women are alive because of you. Rico knows. They all know. We're extracting you now. Safe house until we can..." The sniper's bullet took Michael in the shoulder, spinning him to the ground. Even as he fell, he heard Chen screaming for medical, saw agents scrambling for cover. But Michael's eyes were fixed on a figure standing on a distant rooftop, Rico, lowering a rifle, making a phone gesture with his hand. The message was clear. "We'll be calling." Michael woke up in a hospital room that definitely wasn't civilian. No windows, guards at the door, Agent Butler sitting beside his bed. "Welcome back," she said. "You've been out for 2 days. My family. Safe. We've moved them to protective custody. New identities ready to go. The women, all 12 rescued. 3 other trucks were intercepted thanks to your intel. Total of 37 victims saved. 37 lives. It should have felt like a victory, but all Michael could think about was Rico's promise of revenge. "This isn't over," he said. "No," Butler agreed. "But you're out. You've done enough. Time to disappear. Start fresh somewhere safe. They'll never stop hunting us. Maybe not. But the cartel took a massive hit tonight. El Lobo's in custody, turning state's evidence. The Phoenix corridor is compromised. You did that. Chen entered, carrying a tablet. Torres, you need to see this. On the screen was Rico, surrounded by federal agents in handcuffs. We got him an hour ago. Tried to flee to Mexico, but we were waiting. Michael felt a moment of relief, then saw Chen's expression. What aren't you telling me? He made a call before we grabbed him. To cartel leadership in Sinaloa. There's a price on your head, Michael. $5 million, $5 million. Enough to motivate every sicario, every corrupt cop, every desperate criminal in the Americas. Michael closed his eyes, understanding the weight of what that meant. I need to testify, he said suddenly. If I'm going to live with a target on my back, at least let me put them away first. That's suicide, Butler protested. Appearing in open court, it's justice. Those women deserve to face their captors in court, and I need to be there to make sure El Lobo and the rest go down. Chen and Butler exchanged looks. We can make it happen, but after that, you disappear. Full witness protection, knew everything. My family too, already arranged. The next 2 months were a blur of safe houses and depositions. Michael recovered from his shoulder wound while preparing testimony that would destroy the cartel's Phoenix operation. Maria was allowed supervised visits, their reunion bittersweet. You lied to me, she said, tears streaming down her face. All those weeks, you were in danger, and you never told me. I was trying to protect you. By pushing me away? By becoming someone I didn't recognize? Maria, I understand why, she interrupted. Agent Chen explained everything. I understand, but understanding doesn't make it hurt less. She took his hand, engagement ring still on her finger. I love you, Michael, but I don't know if I can do this. The hiding, the fear, the new identities. I don't know if I'm strong enough. You don't have to be. You can walk away. Start fresh without me. Maria studied his face. Could you? If it were reversed, could you walk away from me? Never. Then don't ask me to. They held each other in that sterile safe house room, both understanding that their old life was gone forever. The wedding they'd planned, the house they'd saved for, the children they'd dreamed of, all of it would have to be reimagined in hiding, under different names, always looking over their shoulders. The trial began 3 months after the warehouse raid. Michael testified for 3 days, his wire recordings playing for the jury, each word another nail in the cartel's coffin. El Lobo tried to maintain his composure, but when the recordings of him discussing the packages played, even his expensive lawyers couldn't hide their disgust. On the final day of his testimony, Michael looked directly at El Lobo and said, "You threatened my family to make me a slave." But slaves can break their chains. Those 37 women you tried to sell, they're free. Your organization is destroyed, and you'll die in prison. That's justice. The verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all counts. El Lobo got life without parole. His lieutenants received sentences ranging from 25 to 40 years. The Phoenix corridor, once a major trafficking route, was shut down. But victory came at a price. As Michael left the courthouse in an armored vehicle, headed for his new life in witness protection, he knew he'd traded one prison for another. He'd never be Officer Michael Torres again. Never see his childhood home, never visit his mother's grave when her time came, never attend his sister's wedding under his real name. 6 months later, in a small town in Maine where nobody knew their faces, Michael and Maria stood before a justice of the peace. Their names were different. David and Sarah Matthews now, but their love was the same. Only Chen and Butler attended, the FBI agents who'd become their lifeline to their old world. "Any regrets?" Chen asked after the ceremony. Michael thought about the 37 women who were free because of his choices, the cartel members rotting in prison, his family safe even if scattered, the wire recordings that had saved lives but cost him his own. "No regrets," he said, pulling Maria close. "Just consequences." But the story wasn't over. The cartel has a long memory, and $5 million buys a lot of patience. 2 years in witness protection had taught Michael, now David Matthews, that paranoia wasn't a disorder but a survival skill. Every unfamiliar face in their small Maine town could be a sicario. Every car that drove by their house twice might be surveillance. The $5 million bounty on his head had turned everyday life into a minefield of potential threats. You think you know fear? Try living every moment knowing that your death would make someone rich beyond their dreams. Try kissing your wife goodbye each morning, wondering if it's the last time. That was Michael's reality, and it was slowly poisoning everything he'd fought to protect. The town of Millbrook, Maine, population 8,000, was supposed to be perfect cover. Close enough to the Canadian border for a quick escape, small enough that strangers stood out, but large enough to blend in. Michael worked at a hardware store. Maria taught Spanish at the local community college. They had a small house with a vegetable garden, neighbors who waved but didn't pry. It should have been peaceful, but peace was an illusion when the cartel's reach extended everywhere. The first sign something was wrong came on a Tuesday morning in October. Michael was opening the hardware store when he noticed it. Fresh scratches on the lock. Someone had tried to pick it during the night. He checked the security footage, but the camera had been spray-painted black around 2 a.m. He called Chen immediately using the emergency line. "Could be random," Chen said, though his tone suggested he didn't believe it. "Local crime, kids maybe." Kids don't disable cameras before attempting entry. This was professional. "We'll increase surveillance." Any other indicators? Michael thought about the Hispanic man who'd been in the store 3 times that week, never buying anything, just browsing. The car with Arizona plates he'd seen parked near the community college where Maria worked. Little things that might mean nothing or everything. Maybe. I'm not sure. Trust your instincts, David. You've kept yourself alive this long by being careful. That night, Michael sat Maria down in their kitchen, curtains drawn, white noise app running on his phone to defeat any potential listening devices. "We might need to run," he said quietly. Maria's hand went to her stomach, a protective gesture that had become habit over the past month. She was 8 weeks pregnant, a miracle they'd thought impossible given their stress and constant fear. Now that miracle felt like a vulnerability. "Are you sure?" she asked. "No, but I'd rather be wrong and alive than right and dead." They'd practiced this. Go bags always packed, escape routes memorized, false identities ready. But Maria's pregnancy complicated everything. Travel would be harder. Medical care would create a paper trail, and a baby would make them infinitely more visible. "Maybe I'm being paranoid," Michael admitted. But the window shattered. Michael threw himself over Maria, pulling her to the floor as automatic weapon fire tore through their kitchen. Plates exploded, cabinets splintered, their refrigerator sparked and died. Michael crawled toward the hall closet where he kept a shotgun. Maria, behind him, both covered in glass and debris. The firing stopped. In the silence, they heard footsteps on the porch. Multiple sets. Michael pumped the shotgun, knowing it wouldn't be enough against what was coming. "Back door," he whispered. "Run to the Petersons' house, call 911. Not without you. Go!" Protect our baby!" Maria ran as the front door exploded inward. Michael fired, catching the first man's center mass, then rolled as return fire shredded the wall where he'd been. He could hear sirens. The neighbors had called the police. But in a town this small, response time would be minutes they didn't have. The second attacker rounded the corner. Michael's shot went wide, but it forced the man back. He heard glass breaking upstairs. More were coming through the windows. He was outnumbered, outgunned, about to die in this house he'd tried to make a home. Then he heard it, Maria's scream from outside. Rage overtook training. Michael burst from cover, charging toward the back door. A figure in black was dragging Maria towards a van. Michael didn't hesitate, firing his last shell into the man's back. Maria fell free, scrambling away. But Michael had exposed himself. The bullet took him in the chest, spinning him down. As his vision darkened, he saw Maria running toward him, saw more figures emerging from the van, saw his death approaching in the form of men with cartel tattoos. The sirens were louder now. So close. Not close enough. Michael tried to raise the empty shotgun, tried to put himself between Maria and the killers, but his body wouldn't respond. Blood spread beneath him, warm and inevitable. That's when the FBI tactical team arrived. The van exploded in a burst of flashbang grenades and smoke. Agents in full tactical gear swarmed the property, engaging the sicarios in a firefight that lit up the quiet Maine night. Michael watched through fading vision as the cartel killers were cut down or surrendered, as Maria was pulled to safety by agents, as Chen appeared above him, applying pressure to his wound. "Stay with me, Torres," Chen commanded. Medevac's 2 minutes out. "Maria, the baby, they're safe. You did it, Michael. You kept them safe." The next thing Michael knew, he was waking up in another windowless room, machines beeping around him, his chest on fire but his heart still beating. Maria was beside him, unhurt but hollow-eyed with exhaustion. "How?" he managed to ask. "Chen had a team watching us," Maria explained. "Since you called about the lock, they were staged nearby when the attack came." Chen entered, looking haggard. "We were almost too late." "I'm sorry, Michael. We should have extracted you at the first sign." "The shooters?" "4 dead, 2 in custody. Professional sicarios from Phoenix. Someone leaked your location." The weight of that settled on Michael's chest heavier than the bullet wound. Someone in the system, someone with access to witness protection files, had sold him out. "Who?" "We're investigating." "But Michael, this changes everything. We can't trust the normal channels anymore." "So what do we do?" Chen exchanged glances with Butler, who just entered. "We have a proposal. It's extreme, but it might be your only option." Butler sat down, her expression grim. "The cartel won't stop. That bounty ensures it. Even if we find the leak, there will be others. You'll never be safe in the traditional system. So we make you disappear completely. Off the grid, no government involvement. We have contacts in certain irregular communities, people who specialize in helping those who need to vanish entirely." "Irregular communities?" Maria asked. "Former intelligence operatives, special forces, people who've made careers of being invisible. They can teach you, hide you, give you skills to survive outside any system." Michael looked at Maria, saw his own thoughts reflected in her eyes. Their baby deserved better than a life of running, but what choice did they have? "Where?" he asked. "Alaska, initially, a compound run by a former CIA operative named Ghost. Yes, that's really what he goes by. From there, possibly overseas, somewhere the cartel has no reach." "And you trust this Ghost?" Chen nodded. "He owes me. More importantly, he hates the cartels. Lost his own daughter to trafficking years ago. He'll keep you safe while teaching you to keep yourselves safe. 2 weeks later, Michael was stable enough to travel. They left the hospital in an ambulance that drove to a helicopter that flew to a private jet that landed on an unmarked airstrip in Alaska. Each step designed to break any surveillance, to confuse any trail. Ghost turned out to be a weathered man in his 60s, built like a linebacker despite his age, with eyes that had seen too much. His compound was a fortress hidden in wilderness, solar-powered, satellite-linked, defended by both geography and enough firepower to outfit a small army. "Jen says you're hot property," Ghost said, studying them with those calculating eyes. 5 million hot. That's right. Well, the cartel's money's no good here. You'll be safe while you train. 6 months minimum. You'll learn counter-surveillance, identity craft, combat medicine, everything you need to stay hidden and alive. And after 6 months, that's up to you. I can connect you with the networks in a dozen countries. Places where you can build new lives so thoroughly that even God couldn't find you. But it means cutting all ties. No contact with family, friends, nothing from your old life ever again. Michael thought about his mother and sister, hidden in their own protection. He'd already lost them, couldn't even attend his mother's funeral when cancer finally took her 6 months ago. What was left to lose? "We'll do whatever it takes," Maria said, her hand on her growing belly. "For our child." The training was brutal. Dawn runs in sub-zero temperatures. Weapons drills until their hands bled, hours learning to forge documents, hack systems, treat wounds. Maria, despite her pregnancy, threw herself into it with determination that surprised everyone. "Your wife's tougher than you," Ghost observed one day, watching Maria field strip an AK-47 in under 30 seconds, despite being 7 months pregnant. "I know," Michael said with pride. But the real education was psychological. Ghost taught them to think like predators, not prey. To see opportunities instead of threats. To turn the hunter into the hunted. "The cartel expects you to run and hide," he explained. "But what if you didn't? What if you fought back?" "Against the entire cartel?" Michael asked incredulously. "Not directly, but you have something they don't expect. Intelligence training, FBI contacts, and now my network. You could hurt them, make that bounty more trouble than it's worth. Or get killed trying. Maybe. But dying on your feet beats living on your knees." The idea grew in Michael's mind over the weeks. He'd been reactive since this began, always defending, never attacking. But what if Ghost was right? What if the best defense was an offense? The opportunity came sooner than expected. One of Ghost's intelligence contacts reported that El Lobo, despite his life sentence, was still running operations from prison through his lawyer. More importantly, he was actively coordinating the hunt for Michael, using contraband phones to direct sicarios. "He's the head of the snake," Ghost said. "Cut it off, and the body might stop moving long enough for you to disappear properly." "He's in federal maximum security," Chen protested when Michael called him with the idea. "You can't get to him." "I don't have to," Michael replied. "I just have to get to his lawyer." The plan was insane, but insanity had become Michael's normal. The lawyer, Vincent Calabrese, visited El Lobo weekly. He was the conduit for orders, the bridge between the imprisoned leader and his scattered soldiers. Take out that bridge, and El Lobo would be truly isolated. "You're talking about murder," Chen said flatly. "I'm talking about self-defense. Calabrese is actively coordinating attempts on my life. He's a combatant. The law doesn't see it that way. The law isn't keeping me alive." Chen was quiet for a long moment. "I can't help you with this. You understand that? If you do this, you're on your own." I've been on my own since the moment Rico put that gun to my head. But Michael had no intention of killing Calabrese. Death would make him a martyr, might even intensify the hunt. Instead, he had something better in mind. The same weapon the cartel had used against him. Leverage. Through Ghost's network, Michael learned everything about Calabrese. The man had 2 daughters at Columbia University, a wife who ran a charity, a reputation to protect. More importantly, he had secrets, offshore accounts, tax evasion, connections to judges he'd bribed. Information that could destroy him. "You're going to blackmail him?" Maria asked when Michael explained. "I'm going to give him a choice. Stop facilitating the hunt for us, or lose everything. And if he refuses, then we release everything to the FBI, the IRS, the media. His life ends, just not with a bullet." Maria, now 8 months pregnant, studied her husband. "You've changed." "I've adapted." "Is that bad?" "No," she said, feeling the baby kick. "It's necessary." The approach to Calabrese required Michael to return to the lower 48, the most dangerous thing he could do. But Ghost had taught him well. New identity, altered appearance, different gait, even contact lenses that changed his eye color. He was a ghost himself now. He intercepted Calabrese in the parking garage of his Denver office building. The lawyer reached for his panic button, but Michael was faster, pressing a taser to his neck. "Relax, counselor. I just want to talk." "Torres," Calabrese gasped. "You're crazy to come here." "Maybe, but you're going to listen." Michael handed him a tablet showing bank records, photographs, transcripts. "Everything about your dirty dealings. One click and it goes to every law enforcement agency and media outlet in the country." Calabrese's face went pale as he scrolled through the evidence. "What do you want?" "Call off the hunt. Tell El Lobo I'm dead. Stop coordinating the sicarios. He'll kill me if I lie to him." "Maybe, but I'll definitely destroy you if you don't. Your choice. This is blackmail. This is survival. You people turned me into this. Now you get to live with the consequences." Michael left Calabrese shaking in his Mercedes, knowing the man would comply. Greed and self-preservation would win over loyalty to El Lobo. 3 weeks later, Maria gave birth to their son in Ghost's medical facility. They named him David, after the identity that had kept them safe. As Michael held his son for the first time, he thought about the price of this moment. The bodies left behind, the laws broken, the man he'd had to become. "Any regrets?" Maria asked, echoing Chen's old question. Michael looked at his son's innocent face, then at his wife who'd stood by him through hell, then thought of the 12 women saved from trafficking, the 37 total victims freed, the future victims who'd been spared because the Phoenix corridor was closed. "No regrets," he said, "just choices." But the story still wasn't over. The cartel might stop actively hunting them, but Michael had made other enemies now, and in the shadows of Ghost's compound, he began planning not just survival but something more ambitious, a way to end this permanently. 6 months after his son's birth, Michael Torres, now fully transformed into someone even he barely recognized, stood in Ghost's communication room staring at intelligence that changed everything. The encrypted message from Chen was brief but devastating. El Lobo escaped during prisoner transport. 8 guards dead. He's coming for you. You think you understand vengeance? Try imagining a man who's lost everything. His empire, his freedom, his power, and has nothing left but rage and resources hidden in places the FBI never found. That was El Lobo now, and he was hunting with the single-minded focus of his namesake wolf. Maria was teaching little David to crawl when Michael told her. She absorbed the news with the stoic strength she'd developed over their years of running. "So we run again?" she asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. "No," Michael said quietly. "I'm done running. Michael, if we run now, we'll run forever. David will grow up in fear, always looking over his shoulder. That's not a life. And if you fight, if you lose, then at least he grows up knowing his father didn't die on his knees." Ghost agreed with the assessment when Michael presented his plan. El Lobo's different now. Prison changed him, made him more savage. He's not thinking like a businessman anymore. This is personal. He won't stop until one of you is dead. I know. That's why I need to control where and when we meet. You're talking about using yourself as bait. I'm talking about ending this on my terms. The plan Michael developed over the next 2 weeks was elegant in its simplicity and devastating in its requirements. He would leak his own location, draw El Lobo in, and ensure the FBI was ready to respond. But this time, he wouldn't just be wearing a wire. He'd be broadcasting everything live, streaming it to multiple servers, making it impossible for corruption or cartel influence to bury the truth. "You're planning to die," Maria said when she understood the full scope. "I'm planning to win. Those aren't mutually exclusive." Her voice broke. "Our son needs a father. Our son needs a future without fear. I can give him that." They argued for hours, Maria alternating between rage and tears. But eventually she understood what Michael had learned in his transformation from cop to survivor to something else entirely. Sometimes the only way to protect what you love is to stop defending and start attacking. Chen was horrified when Michael contacted him with the plan. "This is suicide, Torres. Let us handle El Lobo. We'll find him. When? After he's killed how many more guards? After he's found us? Chen, you know as well as I do that he has resources you can't track, connections you can't break. The only way this ends is if I end it. We can't officially sanction this. I'm not asking for sanction. I'm asking you to be ready. When I give you El Lobo's location, you move fast and hard, no hesitation. And if he kills you before we get there, then at least you'll have his location. And the recording will ensure everyone knows exactly what happened." Michael spent the next week preparing. He updated his will, leaving detailed instructions for Maria and David. He recorded videos for his son, birthday messages for the next 18 years, advice about girls, about courage, about when to fight and when to walk away. He held Maria every night, memorizing her warmth, her scent, the way she fit against him. He also prepared for war. Ghost's armory provided everything he needed. Body armor that might buy him minutes, weapons cached at strategic points, surveillance equipment that would capture everything, and most importantly, a location that would give him tactical advantage. An abandoned copper mine in Montana, isolated enough to avoid civilian casualties but accessible enough for FBI response. The leak was carefully orchestrated. Michael used a cartel informant he'd identified months ago, feeding him just enough information to seem credible. David Matthews would be traveling through Montana, visiting a sick relative. The route would take him past the mine at a predictable time. El Lobo took the bait. 3 days before the confrontation, Michael's surveillance equipment detected scouts examining the mine. They were professionals, mapping angles, identifying positions. El Lobo was coming with a team, not alone. Michael adjusted his plans accordingly. The night before, Michael couldn't sleep. He sat in David's nursery watching his son sleep peacefully, unaware that his father might not see another sunrise. Maria found him there at 3 a.m. "You don't have to do this," she whispered one last time. "Yes, I do. You know I do." She kissed him then, fierce and desperate. "Promise me you'll try to survive. Promise me you'll fight to come back to us. I promise I'll fight." It wasn't the promise she wanted, but it was the only one he could give. The morning of the confrontation, Michael drove to the mine alone. He'd already activated the streaming equipment, multiple cameras hidden throughout the structure, broadcasting to servers Ghost had set up across the world. Chen and his team were positioned 40 minutes away, close enough to respond, far enough to avoid detection. Michael wore the wire-like armor beneath his actual armor, every word being recorded, transmitted, preserved. He took position in the mine's main chamber, a vast space with multiple levels, plenty of cover, and only 2 viable entrances. He'd chosen his battlefield well. El Lobo arrived at sunset, the dramatic timing intentional. Michael watched through hidden cameras as 3 vehicles approached. 12 men, all armed, all cartel soldiers. El Lobo himself looked different. Prison had aged him, turned his expensive suits into tactical gear, his businessman's bearing into a predator's prowl. "I know you're watching, Torres," El Lobo called out, his voice echoing through the mine. "I know you're recording." "Good. I want the world to see what happens to rats." Michael activated his microphone. 12 men for 1 cop? You must be scared. Not scared. Thorough. You've proven surprisingly hard to kill. Your men in Maine would agree. Oh wait, they can't. They're dead. El Lobo laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "You think you're a warrior now? You're just a corrupt cop who betrayed everyone, your badge, your friends, even your fellow criminals. Nobody mourns a rat, Torres. Those 37 women I saved might disagree. Whores and addicts. Their lives mean nothing. Every life means something. That's the difference between us." Michael knew El Lobo was positioning his men while they talked, surrounding the chamber, cutting off exits. But Michael had prepared for this, had turned the mine into a killing field where numbers meant less than position and preparation. "You know what the funny part is?" El Lobo continued, his voice closer now. "Your family isn't even safe. Oh, I know about Alaska, about Ghost, about your son. Did you think throwing away your life would protect them? I have men heading there now." The words hit Michael like physical blows. If El Lobo knew about Alaska, "You're lying." "Am I?" "Your wife Maria teaching the boy to crawl. Sweet scene. My men sent me video just this morning." Rage flooded Michael's system, but he forced himself to think. Ghost's compound was a fortress. Even if El Lobo knew the location, attacking it would be suicide. This was psychological warfare, trying to make him sloppy. "Then you know Ghost will turn your men into fertilizer." "Maybe. But some will get through. And even if they don't, I have time. Years. Decades. Your boy will grow up, leave that compound eventually. And when he does, you'll be dead or in prison. Or I'll be waiting. Patient like a wolf." The first attack came without warning. Flashbang grenades thrown into the chamber from multiple directions. Michael had anticipated this, wearing protective gear, positioning himself where the effects would be minimized. As El Lobo's men rushed in, Michael opened fire from his elevated position. The mine became a war zone. Michael's preparation paid off. He'd created fatal funnels where attackers had to expose themselves, had cached weapons so he was never without firepower, had memorized every angle and shadow. 3 sicarios fell in the first exchange, but there were too many, and they were too well trained. Michael took a bullet in the thigh, another grazing his shoulder. He fell back to his secondary position, leading them deeper into the mine where he'd prepared more surprises. "You're just delaying the inevitable," El Lobo called out. "But I respect the effort. You've become quite the killer, Torres. The badge would be ashamed." "The badge never faced men like you." Michael triggered one of his prepared charges, collapsing a section of tunnel and trapping 2 more sicarios. But the explosion also damaged his escape route. He was committed now. Win or die in this chamber. The firefight continued for 20 minutes that felt like hours. Michael's training, both from the police academy and Ghost's compound, kept him alive longer than should have been possible. But mathematics were against him. For every sicario he dropped, 2 more seemed to take their place. When his ammunition ran low, when his wounds made movement agony, when El Lobo himself finally entered the chamber flanked by his remaining men, Michael knew the end was near. But he had one last card to play. "Chen," he said clearly, knowing the wire was still transmitting. "Now would be good." El Lobo laughed. "The FBI? They're 40 minutes away, my friend. You'll be dead in 2. Maybe. But you'll be on camera the entire time. Everything recorded, transmitted, impossible to deny or bury. You think I care about cameras? No, but your lawyers will when this is used in court." El Lobo stepped closer, his weapon trained on Michael's chest. "There won't be a court. Just a dead rat in an abandoned mine." That's when Michael smiled, blood on his teeth. "You're right about one thing. There will be a dead man in this mine." He triggered the dead man's switch he'd been holding, the one connected to charges throughout the mine's support structure. El Lobo had a second to understand before the world exploded. The mine's collapse was catastrophic. Tons of rock and earth crashed down, burying everyone inside. Michael's last thought was of Maria and David, hoping they would understand, hoping his sacrifice would buy them the freedom he'd promised. But the story didn't end with the collapse. Michael's cameras had transmitted everything. The FBI arrived to find the mine's entrance sealed by rubble. It took 3 days to dig through to the main chamber. They expected to find only bodies. Instead, they found Michael Torres alive, barely, protected by a pocket of space created by reinforced beams he'd installed for exactly this purpose. His legs were crushed, his body broken, but his heart still beat. El Lobo and his men weren't so fortunate. They'd been in the direct collapse zone Michael had engineered. The rescue made international news. Michael's recordings showing El Lobo's confession, his threats, the entire battle, played on every network. The public finally understood the full scope of what one officer had endured, sacrificed, and survived. Michael would never walk again. The damage to his legs was too severe. But as he lay in the hospital, Maria and David beside him, he felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Peace. "The bounty?" he asked Chen. "Withdrawn. El Lobo's death ended it, and his replacement wants nothing to do with you. You're too public now, too dangerous to touch. Any move against you would bring the full weight of law enforcement down on them. So it's over?" "It's over." Michael looked at his son, now taking his first wobbling steps between his wheelchair and Maria's arms. He might never walk with his boy, never teach him to ride a bike or play basketball, but David would grow up free without fear, without looking over his shoulder. The wire recording from the mine became evidence in dozens of cartel prosecutions. The 37 women Michael had saved testified about their rescue. The Phoenix corridor remained closed, saving countless future victims. At the ceremony where Michael received the FBI's Medal of Valor, Director himself spoke. "Officer Torres represents the best of law enforcement, the courage to stand against evil, no matter the cost. His wire recordings didn't just save 12 lives that night in the warehouse. They saved hundreds, maybe thousands, who would have been trafficked through those routes. Michael rolled his wheelchair to the podium, David on his lap, Maria beside him. He looked out at the audience, fellow officers, survivors he'd saved, even some who'd doubted him during his time under cover. "I was asked once if I had any regrets," he said, his voice strong despite everything. "I said no then, and I say no now. Every scar, every sacrifice, every moment of fear was worth it. Because sometimes, the only way to protect and serve is to stand and fight no matter the cost. But the real heroes aren't just those who wear badges or wires. They're the families who stand by us, who endure the fear and uncertainty. They're the agents who refuse to give up even when everything seems lost. They're the survivors who find the courage to testify, to speak truth against power." He looked down at David, who was playing with his medal. "And they're the next generation, who will grow up in a world with fewer monsters because some of us chose to fight them." The audience erupted in applause, but Michael barely heard it. He was watching his son's face, seeing Maria's proud tears, feeling the weight of his broken body and fulfilled purpose. Later, in a quiet moment, Maria asked him one more time, "Was it worth it?" "Really?" Michael thought about the journey, from that first night when Rico appeared in the parking lot, through the fear and betrayal, the wire recordings that had sent dozens to prison, the mine that had nearly been his tomb but became El Lobo's instead. "Ask me when David's older," he said. "When he can walk down any street without fear, when he can become whoever he wants to be. Ask me then. What do you think you'll say?" Michael took her hand with one of his and ruffled David's hair with the other. "That every broken bone was worth his freedom. That the wire I wore wasn't just recording crimes, it was recording a promise. A promise that some things are worth dying for, but more importantly, some things are worth living for, even if that life is hard." The FBI offered to maintain their protection indefinitely, but Michael declined. The threat was over. The recordings had ensured that. For the first time in years, they could use their real names. A year later, Michael Torres opened a small security consulting firm, advising other law enforcement agencies on cartel tactics and protection protocols. He couldn't walk, but he could teach, could share the hard-won knowledge that had kept him alive. Maria returned to teaching, not Spanish, but self-defense classes for women. She'd learned too much about vulnerability and strength to keep it to herself, and David grew up knowing his father was a hero who'd sacrificed his body but not his soul, who'd worn a wire that recorded not just crimes but courage, who'd saved 12 lives that night but many more through his continued testimony and teaching. The wire that had started as a chain around Michael's chest had become a lifeline for others, and in the end, that made every moment of fear, every drop of blood, every sacrifice worth it. Because Officer Michael Torres had done what he'd sworn to do the day he put on the badge, protect and serve, no matter the cost. And the cost had been everything. But the reward, his son's laughter, his wife's love, the knowledge that 37 women were free because of his choices, that reward was beyond price. The wire had saved 12 lives that night in the warehouse. But in the end, it had saved Michael Torres too.